Hi everyone, welcome back to the series of lessons on Germany in the 1920s and 30s. So, poor Germany, we left it off. They've just had World War One. It's gone disastrously for them. So the British have been blockading the ports, so they've been starving. They've had to get rid of their emperor. Things have been really bad, and they're about to get even worse for them because we're going to sign the Treaty of Versailles. So today's lesson, what was the Treaty of Versailles? How did the ordinary Germans respond to it? So by the end of the lesson, you'll be able to explain why the German people opposed the Treaty of Versailles. So this is going to be so important. One of Hitler's main promises is that he will get rid of the Treaty of Versailles. He won't follow it anymore. And it's really popular as an idea for the German people. So, Treaty of Versailles. So this was after World War One. Everyone signed the armistice, which is just stop the war. That's what we remember on the 11th of November with our moment of silence. And now they need to come up with a peace treaty. So all sides need to agree to this. If they don't, war starts up again. And Germany cannot afford for war to start up again. They know they're going to lose. America's joined in on the Allies' side. So Germany has no choice but really to agree to this treaty. And the treaty is so horribly unfair on Germany. So you need to know the key terms. So you are going to remember it by LAM. We've got a lovely little picture of a lamb there. LAM stands for land, army, money, and blame. So we're going to start off. L is for land, and this is a really big one for Germany. So Germany's land is taken off them and given to other countries. So if you look at the map on the screen, the yellow is Germany. Ignore the bit in red for the moment. We'll come on to that in a couple of slides. The bit in orange, though, all of that land is taken away from them. So every bit in orange is the bit that was Germany in World War One, but was taken off them and given to other countries. So they lose land to Poland, to Denmark, to Belgium, to France. That is a lot of land. If you're a German person living in those areas, overnight, you're now living in another country. So it was really extreme. If you imagine whatever county you're in, imagine there's a war, you wake up tomorrow, you're now a different country. You're not living in Britain or the UK anymore. So really upsetting for those people and for other Germans, people not living in those areas were still upset by it. The bits in purple, there were some areas that were given a choice. They got to have a vote. Do you want to stay as part of Germany? Do you want to become a different country? The ones in purple voted to remain. So under the Treaty of Versailles, actually, they could have ended up losing even more land. If the bits in purple had voted to leave, Germany would have been even smaller. So if that's not bad enough, have a look at the bit that I've put an arrow to called the Polish corridor. So that was originally Germany. So imagine it's yellow. Germany stretched all the way to the east. Poland in the peace talks said they wanted access to the sea. So Poland at this time was much further south. They didn't have access to the sea. So in the Treaty of Versailles, they just give Poland a huge chunk of land. It's called the Polish corridor. So a corridor for Poland to access the sea. So Poland becomes a lot bigger, but also Germany gets split in two. So you can see there's a bit out to the east that's still yellow. That's still Germany. It's just it's got Poland in between it. So if you want to get from one side of Germany to another, you have to go through Poland. Really, really bad, ill thought out idea. And there are stories of sort of the people who are drawing this up. They've got maps, they've got pencils, and they are drawing lines, carving up Germany without a lot of thought and without a lot of consideration. So Treaty of Versailles, Germany loses lots of land and ends up split in two with the Polish corridor. Overseas, they also lose land. So they have 11 countries, foreign territories that they're ruling as part of an empire. All of them are taken off them and they're given to other countries. And you can see they're the people getting them. So Britain, Japan, Australia. So if you remember studying the causes of World War one of the reasons Germany goes to war is because they want an empire. They want to increase the amount of countries they have overseas. Because of the Treaty of Versailles, all of them are taken off. So mandate just means another country is looking after it in inverted commas. And it really is inverted commas because they are just taking it over. So Britain, France, the other victorious countries take all of the German Empire and divide it up between them. So the land is huge. If we look at it all together, 10% of Germany's population is now no longer living in Germany. They're living in other countries. And that's going to store up so many problems later on. 13% of Germany in Europe is taken off them. So ignoring the overseas countries, 13% of Germany is now no longer German. It's a huge chunk of the country. All of the overseas territories go. They don't get to keep any of it. And the last two are really important. So Germany loses 50% of its iron reserves and 15% of its coal reserves. What it means that the land that produces iron and coal is taken off. And that's going to be really important because in a bit, when we get onto money, Germany's going to have to pay a massive fine. And yet at the same time, they're taking away Germany's ability to pay. So one way Germany could pay its fine would be to sell iron and coal, but they can't because the land that gives them that has been taken away from them. So when it comes to the term of land, it was really harsh. A is for army, and this is also going to become really important. So the Allies' way of thinking was Germany did this war, they were really awful, they need to be punished, but they also need to be stopped from doing it again. That was their thing. They were like, we've got to make sure that Germany can't go to war again. So they tell them they are only allowed an army of 100,000 men. Everyone else is who's in the army is going to lose their jobs. No air force, so no planes. And the Rhineland gets demilitarized. So the Rhineland is the bit in red. And you can see it's the bit that's right on the border with France. So this is a bit that people get confused about. But all it means is that the German army is not allowed to go into that territory. So the bit that trips people up, they think they lose the Rhineland. They don't. The Rhineland's still part of Germany, but the German army isn't allowed to go into it. Demilitarized. The military is taken out of it. So the army's reduced to 100,000 men, no air force, and there's a large part of Germany that they can't go into. So it's supposed to be reassuring for France. It's like Germany can't put lots of troops on the border and then do a sneak attack over the border. So it's supposed to be reassuring France that they're not going to get attacked again. However, from Germany's point of view, no other country is limited in its army. So Germany is only allowed 100,000 men. All the countries around it are allowed much bigger armies. And Germany's point of view, and we can totally see why they think this is really unfair. So they're going to be surrounded by countries who can build up their armies as big as they like. It leaves Germany really vulnerable. Same goes on with the Navy. So we're still going to put it under A, Army, even though it's the Navy. They are limited. So just like the Army's limited, the Navy's limited. 6 battleships, 6 cruisers, 12 destroyers, 12 torpedo boats, no submarines. So they were using those to really good effect in the war. So the story, the official sort of proclamation was that the German Navy would be handed over to the Allies. So Britain and France would get the German Navy. And there was a bit of miscommunication. The German fleet admiral thought that the peace talks had collapsed, and he actually sinks the German Navy. So over 50 ships are sunk at a place called Scapa Flow. And you can see there, those are the remains of some of the German destroyers that are still, there's about 8 still there today that are on like the seabed just off Scotland. So the navy is reduced. M is for money. So the M in lamb is for money. 6.6 billion pounds to be paid by Germany to the Allied forces, mainly France and Belgium, to help repair the damage. But it's a huge amount, 6.6 billion pounds. If they'd kept paying it off, they would have finished in the 1980s. And remember, we're in like 1919 here, so we are a long way off that. Also, bear in mind that land's been taken away from them. So their ability to pay this is reduced. So huge sum of money. And not only that, they're taking away their ability to pay it. It's really unfair on Germany. And then the last one is blame. So it's Article 231. So if you can remember the name of the article to show off to the examiners, Article 231 in the Treaty of Versailles say Germany has to take the blame for starting the war. Total blame for starting the war. And that's just such a cruel thing to do. So the German people, the war's been awful for them. It's been an incredibly traumatic experience. And now the Treaty of Versailles is saying, well, it's all your fault. You've only got yourselves to blame because you're responsible for starting the war. And whether you've studied World War One and the causes or not, Germany was not totally to blame for World War One by any means. Lots of countries, including Britain, including France, have a share of the blame. So incredibly unfair on the German people that they are told that they are responsible. And the Allies have to do this because this is their excuse for making them pay so much money and taking their land and not letting them have the army. Their excuse for being so harsh is, yes, but Germany was the one that caused the war when they weren't. So if you've ever been accused of something that wasn't your fault or that you get that sense of unfairness, now imagine what you're being accused of is causing the death of 20 million people. So the German people felt a real sense of shame that this was what they were being accused of, but unfairness because they knew very well that they were not completely to blame for World War One. So the Treaty of Versailles, so land, army, money, blame. It was really horrible of them. And we can see this with the German reactions. Now we're going to look at how Germany reacted. So they come up with something called the stab in the back theory, and you can see a cartoon from this time. So if you remember from the earlier lessons, for most of World War One, Germany is winning. And the people know that. They're being told that we're winning, we're winning. Then all of a sudden they've lost, and then they get the Treaty of Versailles. So there comes this idea that actually the army could have won World War One, but they were stabbed in the back. They were betrayed by politicians who gave in when they shouldn't have. So as historians, we can look back and go, that wasn't the case. Germany was about to lose World War One. The politicians had no choice but to sign it. But if you were a German person, 1919, you might well believe that the army had been betrayed. And we can see that the cartoon, the very manly looking soldier there doing a great job, and there's the hand behind him stabbing him in the back. So it became known as a diktat, which is fair enough. A diktat is something that you have no choice about. So that Germany had no choice but to sign it. They were forced to sign it by the other countries, and fair enough. But the Weimar Republic, those politicians are nicknamed the November criminals. So November, the time they signed the armistice to stop the fighting. So we've got this new government, the Weimar Republic, the Kaiser's gone. Weimar Republic's come in, And in their very first year, they're signing something so controversial, so unpopular. They've already got the nickname the November Criminals, and they've barely even started ruling the country yet. So this is a lovely cartoon all about the German feeling for the Treaty of Versailles. So if you wanted to have a look at this, so what can you infer from this cartoon about German attitudes towards the Treaty of Versailles? So I've put you down the bottom there. Infer, to work out things that aren't obvious, reading between the lines. What can you learn from it that it doesn't specifically tell you? So who do you think all the people are? What is the attitude towards the Treaty of Versailles? So just pause the video for a moment and have a go at answering that. Okay, so here are some of the things you could have pulled out. So this very strange looking vampiric creature, this is Georges Clemenceau. He's the leader of France. And actually, if you get a chance, Google a picture of Clemenceau. Picture's actually a really good depiction of him. It looks like him, even though Clemenceau isn't a weird goblin looking figure. They've done a really great job of drawing him. So he is sucking the blood out of Germany. So Germany there is this beautiful woman who's portrayed as really vulnerable. The French sucking the blood out of Germany. So the Treaty of Versailles is taking too much from Germany. So there's Germany there, so deliberately vulnerable, being preyed on by the Allies. And we can see these two bats. So if France is the vampire, those two bats, America and Britain. So big bat, America, baby bat, Britain, representing the other allies flying around outside the window. And there we can see that Germany's laid down her sword and her shield and her helmet. So Germany is not warlike anymore. It's not going to cause trouble. And yet look how horribly it's treated by the Allies. So a really nice summary of the Treaty of Versailles and how it was seen by the German people. So remember land, army, money, blame all together makes the Treaty of Versailles and the politicians who sign it incredibly unpopular.